Over 80% say they suffered from stress. The Health Foundation Headspace ran the survey with the National Union of Students. Here's Chief Executive of Headspace, Jason Trethowan.
I'm actually not surprised, but it absolutely is a real concern. People in the mental health field would recognise that distress and mental health distress in young people, particularly those, got to remember, before the age of 25, it's where 75% of mental health issues arise. So whilst they are, very distressing figures, it's not really a great surprise to those in the mental health system.
But a third had considered self-harm or suicide.
Oh, look, there's no doubting that the figures that the survey results, if you're thinking about 1 in 3 young people are considering self-harm or suicide, absolutely, it's a real concern, and I guess it's now a matter of recognising that over 2,600 young people have responded to this survey, and obviously the statistics speak for themselves, that we do have a lot of mental health challenges for young people who are either working in going through university or in TAFE.
Well, these students are going through one of life's transitions, leaving school, going out into the world. But are we seeing a greater level of reporting of mental health problems, or is life getting harder for them?
Well, young people tell me that life is absolutely getting harder. There's greater pressures on them financially, domestically. But your point about people in transition in life, if you think about going from an environment of a secondary school with your family, and then of course making a move to the city to go to university, you have less check-in points about your mental health and well-being. You have less friendships, albeit trying to form new ones. And often it's a period of reflection for young people, and particularly where there may well have been mental health concerns that they had going through secondary school that have not been addressed, and now they're actually seeing them come to fruition.
But it is a big change to cope with, as you've said. Stress is a normal, natural response to that. How can stress be handled, normal stress be handled, so that it doesn't escalate into something more?
Well, stress is obviously something that young people need to recognise themselves, and often it's caused by a lack of sleep. Sure, they also experiment with drugs and alcohol through their university life. That absolutely does no good for them at all. In fact, it leaves them feeling with more anxious, tiredness, and therefore what we encourage obviously is simple things such as a good diet. What's good for you physically is good for you mentally, and also ensuring that you get an ideal sleep pattern, which I know many university and TAFE students would not have.
But is there an increasing self-awareness of mental problems among the students themselves?
I think the stigma associated with mental health is still well and truly alive in Australia, but I think in recent years, through various campaigns, there has been a greater recognition that mental health is not unlike physical health. And realising that this is almost a normal thing. There's 300 million people, Roz, worldwide with depression. Young people are obviously experiencing high levels of anxiety and depression. And now what we need, of course, in addition to the work that, say, Headspace does across the country to help work with young people, walk side by side with them, provide ideal treatment services, psychological interventions, and so on and so forth, that we need now to look at what does this actually mean for this particular cohort of young patients who, as you said before, have been displaced from one environment now into a new one.
And are universities and TAFE set up to recognise potential problems and then to know what to do if they exist?
I think universities, that's not something we looked at in these results. Obviously universities will do their own thing. Students and young people will say that always more can be done. I think what this now does for us is to say, with the university sector, with health and education leaders, to say, what is it that we can do to ensure that in future generations, young people are not experiencing such high levels of mental health distress?
Jason Trethowan, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Roz.